In today's video, we're going to take a look at the jet black Apple Watch Series 10 after 8 months of using it. When I first got this watch, I was concerned about how the jet black finish was going to hold up. So I'm going to show you what it looks like after 8 months of just normal day-to-day wearing, what I like about this watch and why I'd recommend it, and some reasons I wouldn't recommend it. You might be surprised by one of them, so definitely stay tuned. Also, check out the description. I'll put links to the Series 10 and the Ultra. Amazon always has some great prices on Apple Watches. So let's dive in. Right off the bat, this Series 10 I would say is my favorite Apple Watch. I have the Apple Watch Ultra. It is a great watch for a variety of reasons. But when it comes to a daily watch, I just keep picking up the Series 10. Not that I don't use my Ultra anymore. I primarily use it when I'm out hiking, if I'm going to be out and want to use the GPS a lot, or if I'm streaming stuff over cellular, or just want to have that cellular connection as a backup in case my phone dies. But other than that, I find myself just putting on the Series 10 in the morning. The battery life on the Ultra is great. If you try to use cellular and GPS and you're streaming stuff on the Series 10, the battery may not last you the whole day. I've never really had a problem with battery life on any of the Apple Watches. I'm going to put it on the charger, or now that I use this one to sleep, I'll throw it on the charger for a little bit and it'll make it through the whole day. Now, the first thing I like about the Series 10 is this version has a bigger screen, but it's thinner and it's lighter. It's not that much noticeable in weight, and if you put it side by side with previous aluminum Apple Watches, when I'm wearing the Series 10, it feels like it just sits closer to the wrist and looks like a bigger difference in size than it really is. The big change that happened with the Series 10 is the larger display. It went from a 44 millimeter case up to a 46 millimeter case. So it brought the screen size to about the same as the Apple Watch Ultra. That was one of the reasons that you might want to go with the Ultra in the past, is just to have that larger screen. The screen is really bright. It does up to 3,000 nits of brightness. It's more than enough to see outside. That larger screen is better for text. You can fit more text on there. I found with that larger screen, I can even open up an email and the fine print is even readable on it. Other than the screen being larger, it's using a new screen technology called LTPO OLED technology. And what that means is that it can refresh the screen down to 1 hertz. Now, the lower 1 hertz refresh rate means it updates the screen once every second. With that slow refresh rate, some of the watch faces actually have a second hand on them. So if you have the always on display, you can see a second hand. I wish more of the faces did that, but not all of them do. I like the weight of the Series 10. You barely notice you're wearing this. The Ultra, you notice this more. It is a heavier watch. And I know there's going to be some folks who watch this and they're like, it's not that heavy. I have both watches. I prefer to sleep with this on. I prefer to work out with this on. It is quite a bit lighter than the Ultra. So if you prefer the Ultra and some of those features, hey. But at the end of the day, this is just less noticeable and more comfortable, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of folks out there that use the Ultra and they sleep in it. I really don't like wearing a watch to sleep in, so I notice this more. This isn't as bad. I still really don't like wearing a watch to sleep in, but trying to keep track of my sleep. Another change with the Apple Watch Series 10 is a speaker on the side. So you can actually listen to music, podcast, and other audio right from that speaker with no AirPods or earbuds or any of that. I don't use that a lot, but if I do want to listen to something, it's there. It's an option. Now, if you are the type that likes to play music out of your phone in public, don't do that on your watch. Don't do it on your phone. And in reality, what I found is most of the time, the people that do that and don't respect other people and just play that music, their music often sucks. So not only they're annoying, they have horrible taste. So don't be that guy. I know I'm going to piss somebody off. My music doesn't suck. Anyways, now I've talked up how much I like this watch, but you got to be realistic with it. I have had this for 8 months. I bumped it into things, but I'm not using it to go move stuff in the garage and work with my hands and stuff like that, because I know it's an aluminum watch and I've dinged one before. Also, the display is not a sapphire display. If you want durability and you work with your hands and you might really bang up your watch a lot, you probably should go with the Ultra instead. This thing has a sapphire display, the titanium, and after 2 years of this, it looks great still. The display has no scratches. The titanium looks great. It actually has held up so well that if it wasn't such a close price between this and the titanium Series 10, I would probably go with the titanium version just to have that more durable display and not have to worry about dinging up the aluminum. The Apple Watch Series 10 in aluminum uses Ion X glass, which translates to it's gonna scratch and possibly break way easier than this one. When it comes to performance on the Series 10, it has the S10 processor. I don't notice a huge difference from previous models. I mean, I really don't notice a performance difference from the first Apple Watch Ultra. This is actually 2.5 years old, and I don't really notice the difference. But being an S10 chip, this does have the on-device Siri support. And I don't really notice it, but if you use Siri a lot, maybe you might be impressed with the upgrade. I don't feel like I've noticed much difference in Apple Watches since maybe the Series 6, 5, 4, I don't know. If you have a Series 8 or 9, I wouldn't necessarily run out and buy this. With durability, if you don't want to spend the money on an Ultra and you work in construction or with your hands or just have a job that you're concerned about it holding up, you might want to go with the case instead. Now, let's take a look at the watch after 8 months of using it. If you look all around the watch, I don't see any scratches in the finish. I haven't gone in there and tried to scrape it with the razor blade or anything to see how the finish comes off. Most of the time I found if I do bang it into something, it tends to be the display that ends up making contact. And the Ion X glass, whatever it's called, it holds up well. If you give it a real hard impact, you might break it, but bang it into the wall, hit a counter, desk, whatever, it should hold up well for you. Now, if you are in construction, you work with your hands a lot, you might get rough with your watch with the titanium model, but that's a tough one because for like $50 more, you could just get the Ultra instead. So kind of comes down to preference. And the Ultra has twice the battery life. It has a better GPS and a design that is just different than the Series 10. You get the flat display, which I would love to see this design just thinner for the Series 11, but that's probably not going to happen. I was surprised how well this jet black finish has held up. I know there's the black Ultra where I've seen that little impacts have left dings in the black finish and show that raw titanium underneath. I haven't had that experience with this. I really am surprised how well it's done. So I think for normal day-to-day use, the jet black is a good option to go with because it is a nice durable finish. If you've owned an aluminum Apple Watch and you haven't had a problem with scratching it or dinging it, the jet black could be a good option for you. If you are concerned though, you might want to go with the titanium Series 10. The titanium Series 10 also has that sapphire display, which most high-end watches are using sapphire crystal displays. The iPhones, to avoid scratching up the cameras, those are using sapphire crystals. So that sapphire can hold up really well. After 8 months though, this looks as good as when I got it. And, you know, if I'm going to go out, work outside, or, you know, things that I might get my hands dirty and potentially mess up the watch, I take it off. I don't need it for that time. In most of those cases, I wouldn't use my Ultra just because I don't want to snag the band or anything. So it really doesn't make much difference to me having that extra durability. When I do bang into something, I tend to check my watch with the Series 10. When you bang into something with the Ultra, you usually have to check what you hit because you'll probably do damage to that before the watch. The reasons I wouldn't get a Series 10 would be the durability that I talked about, the battery life, especially if you're going to use cellular. And once you use cellular to stream or to make calls, if you use the GPS a lot, that's going to burn through the battery and you might not make it all day. The nice part is though, is if you do burn through the battery, in 15 minutes, you could get this thing up to 80% charge. And that's what's nice. That quick charge makes the extra battery life of this not as necessary. Now, one of the biggest reasons I would recommend not getting the Series 10 or the Jet Black Series 10 is that Apple releases new watches in the fall. We're 4 months away from this Series 11 coming out. Now, there's a chance Apple will do away with the Jet Black, but if they do, you could pick up one before all the inventory goes away from stores. And you'll save some money too, since it's the old model. If you're not concerned about getting the Series 11, which I would wait and see what it is, because who knows? If it's a nice redesign, it could be a little disappointing if you jumped on this. If it's nothing, take advantage of sales going on the old Series 10 at that point. Now, I have links in the description to get the Series 10 and the Ultra, and I earn an affiliate commission off of that, but I would rather not earn that commission if it meant you saved money and got more for that money by waiting 3 months and going with the Series 11 instead. At the end of the day, the Jet Black Series 10 has held up better than I expected it. I'm glad I went with this instead of one of the other colors. I think this is my favorite Apple Watch that I've owned. And like I said, I've had the Ultra since it came out. Now, if you own an Apple Watch, it doesn't matter if it's a Series 10 or an older one, let us know how yours is holding up in the comment section. It's great for people to get other opinions than mine. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing. Check out the next video. If you can't, give it a like. It definitely helps the channel out. I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.